The Missoula Redevelopment Agency has been given the responsibility to manage redevelopment activities in the city's 3 urban renewal districts. Its purpose is to encourage public and private reinvestment projects in the district's properties, and in so doing, keep the community strong. There are a few simple general steps in redevelopment that exist no matter how large the project is. Generally, they are identifying a problem or opportunity, planning a response, and then delivering this response. Of course, within each step there may be a host of complications that need to be addressed. These complexities can sometimes draw the planning step out a very long time, sometimes longer than the actual delivery step itself. At the MRA office, it is not unusual to find several projects underway at the same time, although not all at the same step. In the year preceding this reporting year, for example, we saw many of the projects MRA was involved in at the completion step. Orange Street Bridge, St. Patrick Hospital and Health Sciences Center, and the Bank Street projects, for example. At the same time, several projects were just entering the planning stage. Chief among these is the Riverfront Triangle project, which Chris Behan will tell you more about later. This is a very exciting project which has the potential for directing much of what downtown Missoula becomes over the next generation. The Missoula Civic Stadium has been in pre-construction phase for a few years now, but is now underway and will be a key part of next year's report to you. In the second urban renewal area, we have seen only moderate growth this past year, although a number of exciting projects are in the pre-development stage and will emerge later this year. The Good Food Store and Byron Brewing both undertook major relocation and renovation projects in the second urban renewal district this year, though, indicating its potential to attract redevelopment energy. The third urban renewal district has grown slowly and has prompted the MRA to undertake a planning process centered around a visit by a panel of real estate development experts from the prestigious Urban Land Institute. In the course of the last year, MRA lost longtime board member Ron McDonald as he passed away after a lengthy illness. Ron had served on the MRA board for over 21 years. As a board member, Ron was both insightful and adept at distilling issues into manageable forms. His unwavering support of the development of riverfront parks and trails prompted the Missoula City Council to name the Riverfront Trail System in his honor. His contributions to MRA were many, and his participation is deeply missed. Redevelopment of public buildings and facilities is a core redevelopment strategy. After all, it is difficult to persuade private investors and property owners to redevelop their property if the public sector is unwilling to do the same. A strong public sector can't help but strengthen the private sector. Downtown and the First Urban Renewal District benefit greatly from the public institutions that exist there, and in the past year, the MRA took the occasion to become partners with several public sector entities to improve the facilities the community enjoys. In the process, we engaged the projects that support the desirability and attractiveness of the downtown.
Trails have become an important transportation element in Missoula in the past couple of decades for both recreational and commuting purposes. We have found that constructing trails in redevelopment areas makes them better places to live, work, and do business. Trails help people get to and from downtown for shopping, work, and school, and have additional benefits of easing traffic congestion, improving air quality, and reducing the need to provide as much parking. As a side note, a new surface parking lot space cost about $12,000 to develop. Caras Park Trail was paved in the mid-70s, years before Caras Park was redeveloped into the town center and gathering place that it is today. Use of Caras Park has increased significantly since it was redeveloped in the mid-1980s. Trail use has increased during that time too, not only from increased park use, but also from better connections to other segments of the Riverfront Trail system. Over the last 20 years, the asphalt trail has seen its share of potholes and patches. However, more serious attention became necessary. So this past year, MRA funded the complete repaving of the trail through the park. Because of better paving practices used this time around, the trail is expected to last many years into the future to be enjoyed by out-to-lunchers, park strollers, and carousel riders of all ages. Cares Park Trail is one of the most popular paved segments of the trail system, with many citizens enjoying it, whether it is on Wednesdays as part of the Out to Lunch festivities, or for just a relaxing stroll along the river.
Missoula voters passed a bond issue some years ago which financed the renovation of the high school district's 3 local high schools. Hellgate High School, the only public high school in the downtown urban renewal district, was in desperate need for an upgrade to its auditorium. The budgeted funds for the project, however, did not quite cover all the upgrades and features a modern high school auditorium ought to have. MRA agreed to provide nearly $70,000 in assistance to permit the upgrade of seating and stage lighting in the auditorium. Today, the public and students of Hellgate High School, whether they are performing or part of the audience, enjoy a comfortable, functioning venue. The Art Museum of Missoula maintains one of the region's finest collections of contemporary Western art. It is housed in the city's former Carnegie Library, an historic downtown structure that is in need of substantial upgrades and a new addition to house and display the museum's growing collection of art. The Art Museum Board and staff have taken a measured and thoughtful approach to modifications to this downtown landmark. The challenge of marrying the contemporary to the historic is fraught with a great many hazards. By engaging the community and artists in the planning of this project, the museum has reasserted its role as a public institution. Moreover, imaginative ideas and difficult problems can be worked out in the design phase with broad public participation so that at the time of construction, the public will have an improved facility that is both functional and beautiful. MRA agreed to fund up to $500,000 in tax increment financing for the design and construction of improvements to the historic Carnegie building. MRA support is contingent upon the museum raising other funds to match MRA on a 2-to-1 basis. In addition, it is the goal of the museum board to create an endowment that will contribute to future operational costs. One of the strong, silent components of any successful downtown is a public library that provides a broad scope of services for the community's citizens. And in Missoula, our library does precisely that. In addition to housing books, periodicals, and other media, the Missoula Public Library is a place with something for citizens of all ages. This past year, the Missoula Public Library undertook 2 new projects aimed at expanding its mission and relevance in the community. The first was the transformation of a small part of the library parking lot into a microcosm of the Great American Prairie. This project was undertaken in conjunction with a traveling exhibit sponsored by the Smithsonian Institute and the American Association of Libraries. MRA assisted this grassroots project by matching volunteer hours and donated materials and equipment with financial support. The project is a great example of the benefits of intensive landscaping development in small spaces. The second project the library undertook was to remodel the front entrance of the library to improve access and to gain needed room for meetings and library-related programs. Using funding derived from a voter-approved mill levy, the library matched MRA almost 2-to-1 in the financing of these much-needed improvements. Once the project is complete, citizens of all ages will find the library a more welcoming and useful place. Our downtown is well served by the staff and facilities of the Missoula Public Library. Few buildings in the downtown are as handsome and stately as the Missoula County Courthouse. Designed by famed Missoula architect A.J. Gibson, the Missoula County Courthouse is approaching its 100th anniversary. The Missoula County Commissioners have embarked on a multi-year plan to repair and renovate the building so that on this centennial occasion, the building looks as grand as it did when it was first built. MRA agreed that this historic building is a huge attraction for the downtown, both for its appearance as well as for being the place where county government is housed and the public's business is conducted. In support of the renovation project, MRA pledged matching funds in the amount of $551,000 to assist with the installation of a modern fire sprinkler system and substantial repair of the courthouse roof, as well as other improvements which will be undertaken over the next couple of years as county budgeting permits. Several years ago, a group of Missoula citizens calling themselves Play Ball Missoula proposed to build a minor league baseball stadium in Missoula. This project was very controversial and sponsored a great deal of heated discussion in the community. Impacts on the neighborhood were unknown and unmeasurable, which led to a great deal of understandable suspicion about the project. Some in the community questioned the use of public funds in building a professional sports facility. Some questioned whether such a facility was of enough public benefit to warrant its being built at all. Play Ball argued the facility would serve the community in ways other than baseball, most notably as another venue for activities to be staged in Missoula. The project also proposed expansion and improved circulation on the community's riverfront trail system. Most importantly, perhaps, was the offer to build and operate the Civic Stadium at no cost to the taxpayers except for separate but related improvements to the facility, such as trails, utility upgrades, and off-street parking, which was to be paid for with a pledge of up to $1 million from MRA. The Play Ball arguments carried the day before the City Council, but before the project could commence, opponents secured enough signatures to force the issue before the voters on a citywide referendum. The election confirmed the City Council's action by a 2-to-1 margin. Again, before the project could move forward in a significant way, opponents challenged the city and Play Ball in district court, where the court issued a summary judgment in the city and Play Ball's favor. The opponents appealed that judgment to the Montana Supreme Court, who, 15 months later, issued a unanimous opinion in support of the city and Play Ball. In the intervening years between initial approval and 2003, the project site has been largely dormant while issues related to approval were resolved. During that time, several events happened which affected the project. In the first place, costs of construction went up over the past 3 years. Moreover, the stock market suffered severe reversals, diminishing the net worth of private donors and businesses that Play Ball had targeted as project funding sources. Consequently, Play Ball requested that MRA pledge another $1 million to help fund the completion of the first phase of the stadium construction. In that way, it was reasoned, private sector donors would be able to measure the city's commitment to the project and feel more comfortable in supporting it. That's where we stand today. Construction is once again underway with a target of having the facility playable by opening day of 2004. The involvement of municipalities in urban renewal activities is predicated on the notion that blight exists in Montana communities. Once it has been identified, municipalities have access to a number of tools to engage with the private sector to encourage property owners and businesses in eliminating and preventing the spread of blight. This engagement is most successfully exemplified in the public-private partnerships that eliminate or reduce the factors that discourage private investment and reinvestment. In this way, municipalities like Missoula and their redevelopment agencies like MRA can work with the private sector to restore declining areas of cities and help reduce pressures to accept urban sprawl as a response to growth.
The Good Food Store project is an example of a public-private partnership that has benefits beyond the obvious assistance that was granted to the store entity itself. The Good Food Store is a successful enterprise that simply outgrew its previous location and sought to relocate to a larger facility. By locating in an existing former grocery store location, many goals were met. An empty store was filled, which helps eliminate the feeling of decline of the area. A grocery store is again serving a neighborhood where one has been absent for several years.
At its creation in 1991, the second urban renewal district was identified as having a number of sites which were appropriate locations for light industrial uses. Unfortunately, when the owners of Byron Brewing approached MRA for help in redeveloping a property for their light industrial brewing operation, the property was found to be one block outside the boundaries of the district. The district's boundaries at the time it was created followed the then city limits. Subsequent to the creation of the district, however, the city annexed several blocks of developed property, including the proposed brewery site, into the city. MRA staff worked with the owners to figure out a solution and, at the direction of the MRA board, shepherded a proposal through the Missoula City Council to amend the boundaries of the district to include the future brewery operation. Once the district boundaries were amended, making the property eligible for assistance from MRA, the project took shape. The project, a brewing and bottling operation, was proposed for a building that formerly housed a masonry business. In addition to modifying the building to accommodate both the brewing and bottling operations, new life safety features, sidewalks, and a new facade were created for the building. In addition, a new tasting room was added. Subsequent to the project, a beer garden was also added. Total MRA investment in this $1 million project was around $34,000. This MRA project supported a long-time local business and demonstrates how, with sensitivity, a light manufacturing facility can become a positive part of a neighborhood. Much of what constitutes blight in the older sections of communities is due to age and obsolescence, but a great deal of it is due to poor planning in the past. Often, a lack of understanding of the consequences that result from decisions made today sow the seeds for future problems. As a result, MRA spends a great deal of time involved in planning on many of its significant projects and problems. These planning activities allow the community to participate in defining problems and opportunities and allow MRA to make use of the expertise of outstanding professional planners and designers in understanding the needs and potential of our urban renewal districts. This past year, the MRA was involved in two such activities. The first was the preparation of a plan for the Riverfront Triangle area, formerly known as the Fox site, a project that was undertaken in partnership with St. Patrick Hospital and Health Sciences Center. The second was the planning to plan activities with the Urban Land Institute for our third urban renewal district.
In 1984, the city of Missoula acquired the former Fox Theater site along the north bank of the Clark Fork River. When added to a 1928 donation of adjacent riverfront land to the city, and more recent purchases by the city of the former Mustard Seed Restaurant on Front Street and the Orange Street Holiday Store, the city owns nearly 3.5 acres of land at that location. During the late 1990s, the Western Montana Clinic found that their buildings downtown had become functionally obsolete for current medical practices. In 2001, during a project to create a downtown health sciences center with the Western Montana Clinic, St. Patrick Hospital acquired the clinic's land and buildings. During 2002, the hospital and MRA co-sponsored a design charrette. The charrette, attended by over 60 citizens from all walks of life, created a vision for the site, as well as 2 contiguous privately owned land parcels. The results of the charrette included a recommendation to conduct a development master planning process for the area to fill in the charrette framework on what has become known as the Riverfront Triangle site. The Riverfront Triangle is a 9-acre, wedge-shaped area bisected by West Front Street that includes land bordered by West Broadway, North Orange Street, and the Clark Fork River. St. Patrick Hospital and MRA engaged Design Workshop of Denver, Colorado to create the Riverfront Triangle Master Plan. The master plan process continued the extensive public involvement started at the charrette. Recently completed, the master plan has successfully addressed its primary objective: to lead an in-depth exploration of design possibilities and generate a plan that fosters a successful downtown district that is alive with diversity of people, public places, activities, and uses. The plan is a bold vision and should result in projects that are both aesthetically and economically beneficial to the city. It provides for a variety of residential, office, commercial retail opportunities, as well as civic uses and public plazas. It emphasizes public use and access along, to, and from the riverfront. The plan includes proposed land uses and building programs, architectural and building materials direction, recommended transportation improvements, public amenities such as plazas, gathering spaces, pedestrian trails, park areas, and how public and private spaces should interface. It also establishes a list of required infrastructure improvements, including parking, utilities, and traffic calming. Some of the plan's recommended controls are not completely the same as the current zoning on the site, or with the nearby Central Business District zoning designation east of Orange Street. Therefore, a special zoning district is being proposed to provide regulations to achieve the vision set forth by the charrette and illuminated by the master plan. As importantly, being appropriately zoned also provides private developers with more understanding of what the community wants for the site and guides their planning. Upon completion of the new zoning, MRA plans on marketing the Riverfront Triangle to developers.
It's the nature of things, including cities, to get old. What was once the new retail powerhouse of the community, sparked by relatively cheap land and heavily traveled Brook Street, is now starting to fray in places. As the community has grown up around what was once Highway 93, we are beginning to rethink how this area was developed. Is this the kind of development that is appropriate for an area in the heart of Missoula? Commonly called strip development, this part of town is characterized by narrow commercial corridor along a main arterial street. large parking lots, and bright signs competing for the motorist's attention.
In December of 2000, the City Council created a third urban renewal district in the area surrounding Southgate Mall, taking in the area between and around Brook Street and the railroad tracks. Like what happened decades before in the downtown, the area around Brook Street is feeling the effects of the modern development taking place on the fringes of the city, and it's showing its age. Not old enough to be quaint, but too old to be hip. The Brook Street area is in need of redevelopment informed by new ideas. And new ideas and a better understanding is just what the MRA board plans to garner by inviting the Urban Land Institute to send a panel of ULI members from various professions to spend a week in our community. The panel will visit Missoula the week of October 12th, making observations about the Brook Street area and, more importantly, meeting with people from the community. The panel will touch on topics such as the market potential of the area, planning and design, redevelopment strategies, and an implementation of those strategies. At the end of the week, the panel will summarize their findings and ideas in a public presentation, followed up by a printed report to come sometime later. The MRA will then be able to use these ideas and observations to guide the district's redevelopment and make well-informed decisions regarding the renewal of this important part of our community.
Over 20 years ago, the citizens and policymakers of Missoula recognized that the heart of our community was in serious trouble. Obsolescence, vacancies, and a general pall of discouragement covered downtown Missoula. Our community's leaders concluded that we could not afford to neglect this situation. We could not afford to throw away the downtown. They responded to the challenge and desire for a renovated downtown by creating the MRA and giving it the responsibility and the tools to get this important job done. Redevelopment is a good thing for our community, but it doesn't happen simply because MRA wills it to happen. It has taken the vision and support of a generation of elected and appointed officials to get us where we are today. It has taken the combined efforts of the MRA board and staff to undertake the scores of projects that have transformed the properties, especially those in the original downtown district. More importantly, it has taken the willing partnership of MRA's partners, both public and private, who have invested the time, effort, and resources into those projects. Without their participation, the redevelopment success Missoula enjoys simply would not have existed. I hope you have enjoyed this report on MRA's activities and will feel free to contact MRA office with your comments or questions about our programs and activities. Thank you.